Early in the war, doctors noticed troops returning from duty with highly unusual psychiatric disorders. Men with no visible physical injury complained of paralysis, blindness, uncontrollable shaking. Some were struck dumb. Others screamed in terror at the slightest alarm. Over 80,000 men were treated for what was then known as shell shock, post-traumatic stress triggered by the horrors of life in the trenches.
My grandfather was hospitalised for 5 months, and any field cards that were sent home to my grandmother were written by the nurse because his hands were shaking too much and he couldn't hold a pen. And then the following year he was hospitalised for 2 weeks with exactly the same problems, shaking and, couldn't stand the noise. And then when obviously they thought he was fit enough, he was returned to his unit. And that was the last my grandmother ever heard from him.
In August 1916, Harry Farr was sent to the trenches of the Somme. The fight was so brutal that a war correspondent wrote of shell-shocked men weeping, moaning and shaking. As the battle raged, Harry Farr's nerves finally gave out.
He was a sick man, and as he neared the front, he started shaking and struggled and screamed and said, "I can't stand it, I can't stand the noise of the gunfire." And he was told, "I don't care what you think, you're going to go to the front." And eventually he was put on this charge.
Under Section 4 of the Army Act, Harry Farr was accused of misbehaving before the enemy in such a way as to show cowardice. In court, Farr defended himself. The trial records, held at the National Archives, meticulously record all the evidence given by both sides that day. At the trial, there were two very different versions of how Harry Farr was arrested. The first witness for the prosecution, the regimental sergeant major, said he told Farr to go up to the trenches. Farr refused, and then the sergeant major said, "I again warned him that he would have to go to the trenches or be tried for cowardice." But in Harry Farr's account of this, what the sergeant major said, and I quote, is, "You are a fucking coward and you will go to the trenches. I give fuck all for my life and I give fuck all for yours, and I'll get you fucking well shot." The second has the desperate ring of truth. After a short trial, Harry Farr was sentenced to death. No provision was made for his disturbed mental state. In their summing up, senior officers did not recommend mercy. One wrote, "Even the men agree that this man is no good."